This is April the 28th, 2016. It is 6:00 p.m. All public notices have been sent out, and this is an official meeting of the Livingston Parish Council. If you don't mind, let's rise for the invocation. I believe Mr. Tracy Girlinghouse has this covered tonight.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, Lord, and thank you for the privilege of being able to stand here and live in a country where we can have our voices heard and our opinions taken seriously, Lord. Lord, I ask you to watch over every citizen and every elected official as they go about their days, Lord. And Lord, I just pray that everyone on this council seeks you when they're making decisions, when it affects the community and indeed their life, Lord. Lord, watch us as we go home tonight. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Miss King, Mr. Scooter King, since it's your 51st birthday, would you be so kind as to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Thank you. To get started, let's, Miss Sandy, if you would call a roll to make sure there's a quorum tonight, please.
Mr. Lobel. Yes. Mr. Averett.
Yes.
Mr. Mack.
Here.
Mr. King.
Here.
Mr. Ard.
Here.
Mr. Girlinghouse.
Here.
Mr. Harris.
Here.
Mr. Talbert.
Here.
Mr. Wascom.
Here. Thank you. Just a quick reminder, if you don't mind, just double check your cell phones so there's no major interruptions tonight. We will have public input on any ordinance. When we call for a public hearing, you will be recognized during a public hearing as well. And if on any item on the agenda, if you desire to speak, please raise your hand. You'll be recognized by the chair. The first item on the agenda is to have a public hearing and then have an adoption of an ordinance. This is for the creation of Juban Trails Community Development. Before we I guess we can hold the public hearing first before we read the title. So I hereby declare a public hearing open for creation of a Juban Trails Community Development District. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of? Or against? To my left, to my right, none being?
Y'all don't have anybody from on Juban Trail?
Mr. Talbert?
I just wanted to make a comment.
Sure.
When I first looked at this, I had some concerns about, if you look at the raw numbers, go to the back page of your deal, look at the raw numbers, and you break down the assessment per lot. The numbers appear to be kind of high, and so I made some inquiries as to how they planned on paying the debt. Okay, so some of the information I gathered in talking to Mr. Uter, and I'm gonna stay embarrassed because I didn't write the bond attorney's name down, but I talked to him today. This is basically the majority of the assessment. Actually, there's going to be I think the bonds are going to be issued two different ways. There's going to be a utility bond issued to pay for the sewer treatment plant and the force main on Juban for the development, is the way I understand. That's one of the things that's going to be taken care of. There's going to be a utility bond, and I don't want to speak out of term, but it's my understanding that there's going to be bulk gas and water sold to the CDD, which will then be passed on to the residents of the development, and the CDD will make some money to retire that bond. Plus, the residents will be charged an impact fee, or the developer will be charged an impact fee per lot to retire the debt on the force main and the sewer treatment plant, along those lines. And it's the intent, from my understanding and talking to them, that Sewer 2 will be the operator of the sewer treatment plant and will gain ownership of the sewer treatment plant when it's done, which will create a big step toward moving sewer in that southern part of the parish. So, I think that's how the funding is, and then the lots will be sold, and the assessment per lot will be paid on each lot. Am I correct in saying that? Because the developer has commitments from some national builders, and they're not gonna buy lots with assessments left on them. So it'll be the CDD at that time will then, make the payment on the lot, and each lot will be free and clear of assessment. Now, there's a contingency that if the lots don't sell as rapidly as they think and payments need to be made, then there can be an assessment put on the developer, at that time to ensure that the money is paid on the bonds that have been sold. My concern, or my only commitment that I'm looking out of this is that, Sewer 2, I went to a meeting at Fairman's office when there were some developers of other subdivisions in the area that are committing to tying into this sewer treatment plant. And Sewer 2 has no issue with that, with the understanding they're gonna get the plant back at some point in time when the bonds are paid off. But if that commitment's not there from the CDD board, then Sewer 2 will take a step back in creating sewer in that part of the parish, because they'll be giving up 4 or 5 subdivisions to some other entity. So, the ordinance outlines, who the members of the board are. So I would like for the members of the board to remember when we have this vote, that when it comes later on, the commitment has been made by the developers that sewer treatment plant will become the property of Sewer 2, and Sewer 2 will operate it and generate the revenue from it and operate that sewer treatment plant. I don't want there to be any confusion at some point in time later on. So, I mean, that's the comment I want to make, that Sewer 2 is trying to work with the CDD to be sure that, everybody can work together, and they're allowing other customers that they could utilize in a different way to tie into that plant to help make that thing come to fruition, with the understanding that they get it back. And so, I mean, that's the thing that we all need to understand. We're trying to work together. Let's make sure that the members of the CDD, those 5 board members, understand at a later date that the intent is for that thing. And hopefully there'll be a cooperative endeavor agreement signed between Sewer 2 before the bonds are actually sold. But, we want to make sure that's on the record, that my support for it is based on that. And so, I want those other 5 board members to understand. I'm not one of them. I want them to understand how important it is for Sewer 2 to be included if they give up those customers.
And who appoints those 5?
Well, they're in the ordinance right now. If you read them, they're in the ordinance. If you read the ordinance, they list the 5 board members. It's part of the ordinance.
Now, will there be assessments on the gas as well?
I think there must be a handshake agreement, just like there is with Sewer 2, on a place to buy bulk water and gas.
So will that be coming through Walker or from Denham Springs?
I suspect it's coming from Walker because of the proximity. So I mean, understand the CDD is gonna retire some of their debt, on the utilities based on those sales. So, I mean, it's a win-win for everybody, as long as everybody understands what's going on the front end, so that there's no confusion later on what's happening. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
I mean, I don't think the people are actually gonna be outside the city limits of Walker, and so the rates are gonna be comparable to the other people. They're not paying an elevated rate. I think the CDD is gonna buy at a discount and then sell comparable so that they'll make that money. Am I correct in?
That's what I was understanding. And
So-
there's gonna be no assessment millages to
There'll be no
those property
assessment.
over 20 years.
The national builders aren't looking for assessment. The national builders think that when they come close a lot, all assessments are gonna be paid at the deal. So if they, if there's a hypothetical $10,000 assessment on a lot, and they pay 30 for it, that of that money that transfers hands, 10 of it will go from the CDD
To pay off the
retire
bonds.
bonds.
And I'll tell you, this is another major step toward getting sewer to an area that's been negligent of having quality
been
I
sewer.
mean, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm
So-
not real crazy about CDDs. I mean, you know what I'm saying, but I don't mind In this situation, it's a win-win for a whole large group of people, so I don't mind supporting it.
Mr. Gordon King.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gordon King, Government Consultants. I just wanted to let the gentleman know that that is the commitment to work. I talked to the developer, as I think you did, and Pat Beecham is the lawyer's name.
Right, okay. I knew I talked to him today too. I just couldn't remember the name.
Unfortunately, he's in Lubbock. His
Right.
mother passed away. But the commitment is for to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with Sewer District Number 2. That is a commitment and will allow not only in this development and in many others. So I didn't want to leave that open.
Right.
The developer authorized me to tell y'all that that is the commitment that they intend to
And
do.
I just think that's important. I think there's gonna be benefit to drainage districts and all kinds of stuff, the way this thing's working forward. It's gonna be, and so because of that, you know, I'm willing to support it. You know what I'm
Will there
saying?
be one with Rick Ramsey, the mayor of Walker, for gas as well,
Yes,
incorporated
the
debt
water and gas.
Yes.
As an aside,
Is he, you talked to him?
I was about to call you a council member because I remember you from your days.
Well, I'm still a council member.
I'll call you Mr. Chairman now.
But yeah, I
Mr.
understand.
President, as an aside, there have been a number of community development districts that have been created in the state and in particular in this parish. But this one, once it's fully up and running, will be the largest ever. I mean, we're talking about 1,500 lots to 2,000 lots. And it's tremendous, could be a tremendous benefit to your area. So we appreciate what y'all are doing by creating the district. And again, the developer couldn't be here tonight. My partner, Jim Ryan, couldn't be here tonight, and the bond lawyer couldn't be here. So we're all second tamers, but we wanted to be here tonight to thank y'all and, of course, to answer any questions that you may have.
But I think it's a good deal. I think we ought to do to put it on, you know,
We just need a motion to close the public
I'll
hearing.
make a motion to close.
If there's no more, motion by Mr. Talbot, seconded by Mr. Jeff Avert. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? None being motion, the public hearing is closed. Ms. Sandy, you want to read the ordinance by title before we get a motion to adopt the ordinance?
Yes, sir. This is proposed ordinance 16-09, ordinance creating a Juvenile Trails Community Development District within the parish of Livingston, state of Louisiana, and further describing the boundaries thereof, and further appointing a board of supervisors consisting of 5 members to govern and manage said community development district, and providing for certain other related matters, all in compliance with the provisions of Chapter 27B, Title 33 of the Louisiana Revised Statutes of 1950 as amended, Louisiana Revised Statute 33-9039.11 to 33-9039.37 inclusive.
Thank you. Motion to adopt the ordinance by Mr. Tracy Girlinghouse. Second by Mr. Bubba Harris. Any discussion? None being. Ms. Sandy, you want to call the vote, please?
Mr. Lavelle?
Yes.
Mr. Averett?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Ard? Mr. Girlinghouse?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Talbert?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes. Next, item 8, we like to do presentations every Livingston Parish Council meeting. Tonight, Mr. Tab Lobel has a little bit of presentation I think he'd like to present.
There's no one present here, but we are definitely present and representing from Livingston Parish at the Sulphur softball tournament tonight. We got 4 teams from Livingston Parish that are there. Got Marpaul, Doyle, Holden, and Live Oak are all represented there. A lot of my buddies are heading that way right now, and a lot of girls that we have played with and against. And so I just wanted, as a council, to wish them all the best of luck, and I hope they have good luck over there. And they've already had great success to get there, no matter what happens.
So this is girls softball for
Girls-
for high school?
Girls high school softball.
So it's a possibility one school might be from Livingston could be
No,
playing?
they're all in different. They're all in different.
Different
classes.
divisions?
Right, different classes.
We'd love to see
I
Holden back
got,
here
look,
again.
I'm gonna tell you, if it goes all according to plan, we're gonna have plenty of presentations for the next 4 or 5 meetings. We're not gonna have to look for anything.
We don't
I
mind
know,
that.
I
That's
know
a
I've
big
got a
deal.
car leaving out of my house at noon tomorrow with a load. So I'll just to try to get to Daryl's and eat a po' boy before we go, before we get to Sulphur Park.
Item 9
Bless
is
your
the
heart.
adoption of minutes from the previous council meeting, April the 14th regular meeting. I think you've all had a copy of the minutes, and we'd just like to ratify those by a motion by Mr. Tracy Girlinghouse. Thank you, Tracy.
Second.
Second by Mr. Talbert to adoption of regular minutes. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? None being, motion carries. Item 10, Parish President's Report. Mr. Mark Harrell, I believe you have a couple items on the agenda. Thank you for being here tonight to explain these items.
All right, well, thank you. Good evening. Everybody smile. It's a wonderful day.
Yes, it is.
Tonight, I'm seeking a resolution authorizing the parish president to sign a couple change orders or amendments. The first one is amendment to the Forest Delat project. We're asking for $16,115. We've got to do some geotech work for the bridge. Just so you know, this is a $1.8 million project that the state's funding. Just some things we have to do to carry out this project. So we're asking for an amendment of $16,115.
I'm sure that won't be hard to find with the improvements to Forest Delat Road.
I'll offer that motion.
Motion by Mr. Bubba Harris, seconded by Mr. Tracy Girlinghouse. Any discussion?
Mark, this is all our money? This 16,000?
Yes, sir.
So this 416,000, that's gonna be the total lump, is our part on the match, on the deal?
We're basically paying for the engineering portion of it, and then they pay for the construction.
So all our match is only engineering, we didn't have any construction match, it's straight engineering match?
Not that I'm aware of,
Okay. So this 416 is all engineering fees?
but in geotech, things like that. And it's all coming out of your district. We have a meeting ahead of time.
All out of your budget.
It's all coming out.
Any
That's all.
more
Anything you
discussion
say,
on this item? Mr. Joe Kurzowski.
I think y'all can hear me from here.
Yes.
I'm the fire chief with Fire District 5, as most y'all know. As you rebuild this road again, are you gonna bring up those two spots where when it rains hard and it floods, I can't bring a fire truck because I'm stuck on two sides and cannot get to that, where Victory Church is and that subdivision is? Are you gonna fix those issues, or are we just gonna blacktop the daggum thing again and wait for it to flood? And you know, are we gonna fix the problem?
I'm not gonna answer that for you, Mr. Joe, but you standing right next to the generator.
And we're
Throw
gonna,
that right on him.
but my question is, we're gonna spend almost $2 million. Are we gonna fix the issue, or are we just gonna put more blacktop down like we did 7 or 8 years ago?
Well, Chad Backus from Fort Nevada.
You want to come to the microphone there and say, this might be a question we need to
I don't think
talk.
he is allowed to not touch you, Joe.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, we're gonna evaluate the drainage for all the crossings that we have, whether it's a bridge or cross drains or whatever. But we gotta be careful raising up a road and damming up something that's further upstream. And we also can't dump more water downstream. So we're gonna evaluate that at each one of the crossings, whether it's a
Okay.
bridge or cross drain. We'll try to bring the road up as much as we can, but we also don't wanna impact anybody upstream or downstream. So
Sure.
we're putting a new bridge on Forest Delat on one of the timber bridges that's dilapidated. But we'll look at each one of the crossings and try to bring up the road as much as we can. Like I said, I just don't want to create a dam, and then we hurt more people upstream as well. So we got to be careful how much we bring it up.
And if you change too much, you're gonna lose your grant funding.
Right.
Sure.
I know what he's talking about, because I traveled that road after some heavy rain, believe me. And they have the culverts right there where the problem is. That might be something y'all wanna look at.
We're going to look at each one.
Larger culverts and things like that, you know, to get that water on away from there.
So check-
Because like you said, they could be sitting there with a fire truck on each side
No, you're
and not
right.
be able to do anything.
The next item is the same way with
Yeah.
Buddy Ellis.
Chad, there's no way to calculate at what point they overtop and the volume and the flow of the overtopping, and then just compensate for that by, if you raise it and flatten it by putting a larger culvert on the bottom, or is that
Yeah, no, that's what
outside the scope, or?
No, that's within our scope. When we do the hydraulic study on it, we'll look at that. We'll determine what kind of watershed was draining to that area, and what the water service is, and what the impacts are from running that with the with the existing culverts that we have, and if we bump the culverts up a little bit, what does it do to the people downstream? So
Okay.
we'll look at the water service, and if it's flooding the street now, we'll try to make it less than that, what it is, you know.
Sounds like you got two options too, if you got two low spots. You can,
Yeah, there's
if you
the-
get one of them handled, at least
Well,
you
we'll
get
probably
one way or the other, huh?
We'll try to get both of them handled, and same thing with Buddy Ellis, it's got low spots in it too, so. We're definitely gonna do some drainage improvements. Like I said, I just gotta be careful, if we can't make downstream improvements, then we gotta be careful how much water we dump downstream.
Right, I mean, we talked about that earlier about, you know,
Well-
everything.
Maybe we can work with the drainage district to help with the downstream
Sure.
improvements on all this,
Certainly, that's
you
right.
know, so.
Yeah, we can communicate that with them and see, hey, if we open this up, can you guys improve it further down, not
Right.
listen about it?
If you need help with there, please let Mark Harrell know. He does a
He's
good
gonna
job.
be the man.
Working with those guys.
Yeah, because my district is definitely downstream,
Yeah, that's right.
and we got enough problems down there already.
Oh, yeah, but that has nothing to do with the water coming from the north. That's the one from the wind coming
That
from the.
wind blowing it up, yeah.
Y'all,
That was just
y'all's problem, I don't think it's gonna be raining or drainage.
Let's get a motion to authorize Parish President Leighton Ricks to enter into a contract, to sign a contract with amendment number 2 for this particular project.
I'll offer that.
Motion by Mr. Bubba Harris. Second by Mr. Tracy Girlinghouse. Any discussion other than what we've had? None being, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Aye, motion passes. Any opposition? None being, motion passes. Mr. Mark, the second item.
All right, B is Buddy Ellis, same thing, but we're asking for 21,890, but it is basically a $2.6 million project.
So this is the same thing, this is
Just on the same.
$591,000 engineering and geotechnical and surveying and
Yes,
land acquisition, all that stuff. And that's our share of the program.
yes.
Jennifer, is that budgeted in this year's budget? Is that money set aside from past? How does that work?
It is not budgeted in a line item for current year expenditures, but I always leave in a pretty good cushion for things such as this when I'm allocating how much money we can spend on asphalt
Okay.
or roadways. So we definitely have room to make some changes.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Gary Talbot.
Hold up, John.
Buddy Ellis be widened
I
in?
think we're getting just a very narrow part, you know, not much. We don't have the access.
We're gonna close in a few ditches and widen out, Jeff, we're gonna try to stabilize the shoulders a little bit more than we got. Sure. So there's some areas where we may have to do that to
If
get
that
it.
road's off from there
But
and
not a lot.
for that many people, they're gonna be traveling it.
Especially this human trials.
Yeah, I had talked to some people yesterday. I don't know how I come up in this situation, but they found out I was a councilman, then they got to question me about it. And they said, well, look, said with all those houses and everything they're building down there, we need a 2-lane road with a turning lane down the center. And I looked at them, I said, I'm sorry, that won't happen.
No suicide lane on Buddy Ellis.
Yeah, and Joe's all for that, you know, 3-lane, 4-lane, whatever. But elevated highway,
Is there a motion?
it'll be widened a little bit, not a lot.
Motion by Mr. Girlinghouse.
Second.
Second by Mr. Talbot.
I have Mr. Talbot.
Motion by Mr. Talbot, second by Mr. Girlinghouse.
That'll work.
Yeah, either way.
Any discussion? None being, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None being, motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Harrell. The next item, board reappointments or appointments for Gravity Drainage District Number 5, Mr. Tracy Girlinghouse.
Yes, I'd like to, I guess, reappoint Mr. Preston Kilcrease. He is permanently held the position, and he has inquired with me that he would like to continue to stay in that position, and I'm more than happy to let him.
You need a motion?
Motion by Mr. Girlinghouse,
Sure.
second by Mr. Jeff Ard. Any discussion? None being, I think, Mr. Preston is a great guy for the community. He does a good job. So, Miss Sandy, would you call for the vote, please?
Mr. Lavelle.
Yes.
Mr. Averitt.
Yes.
Mr. Mack.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Ard.
Yes.
Mr. Girlinghouse.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Talbot.
Yes.
Mr. Lawson.
Yes. Item 13, give a portion of Boss McNabb Road back to the landowner. This was requested by Mr. Tab Lobel.
There's a portion of Boston McNabb Road that think the parish does not need to maintain anymore. It's the same landowner owns it all the way to the dead end road, and they're not interested in the parish maintaining it anymore. They would just like to have it private. So, we went out and looked at it, and everybody agreed that there's really no sense in the parish continuing to maintain that.
So it's owned by the landowner as well, so there's no action required, I guess. as far as-
That's gravel from the
Yeah.
cattle guard back, right?
Right, it's
Mr.
gravel
Moody?
road, yeah.
Well, you've done it a different way. You could probably do it either way. Just to be safe, we prepared an ordinance, it's in front of you, we handed out late tonight, abandoning your interest in the road. This was a road taken in by a prior resolution. It was not dedicated in the typical way, so we don't really have any ownership of the land. So I don't think we need the quitclaim. Ordinarily, we'd have a map showing you which portion of the road, we described it the best we could. So I think what you need is a motion to introduce that ordinance. I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Jeff Averitt to introduce an ordinance and call for a public hearing to give a portion, to give back, revoke this property. Second by Mr. Tab Lobel. Any discussion? This will be, you wouldn't need to read it.
Yes, sir.
This will be for, you have a date set for it as well? We can read the whole ordinance.
It'll be the 26th of May, won't it?
Yes, sir. This will be proposed ordinance 16-15, an ordinance abandoning that certain portion of Foss McNabb Road within the parish of Livingston, state of Louisiana, and more particularly 2,500 feet, which is gravel and unpaved. Public hearing to be held on May 26th at 6 p.m.
All right, we had a motion by Mr. Averitt, second by Mr. Lobel. Any discussion?
Yeah, is there like, do they have a map showing, we don't have a map in here, so.
Can we get a map?
We've asked DPW for a map. What they gave us was that description that's in the ordinance. We can have it before the public hearing.
So what is that?
I would like to, I would
Is
just
it
like.
from the
I would
cattle
just-
gap back? Is that what?
I would just like to see what we're giving back.
That's what it is.
In other words, it runs to the back 40 and that's, they want it private.
That's a good question. That's a good.
I just would
question.
like to see what we're giving back. I mean,
That's a good question, and we'd asked for that, and we'll try to have that for you.
I mean,
Well, are we actually giving
cattle
it back?
back
though?
is not
It's
a-
really
Well, you
never
just-
became
Right,
parish
just the
property.
road's been there for years.
So we just gonna quit maintaining it.
So you're telling me it was accepted into the maintenance program without any transfer ownership?
And then, but maintained for 3 years, that action makes it a public road. So you don't own it, but you and the public have the right to keep it
But we can,
going.
but by
Oh,
ordinance,
okay.
we can give it back.
I got
You
you.
can declare you're no longer using it for public purposes. You're not and- maintaining it
School
anymore.
bus used to turn around back there.
And then
that
they
kind
can
of stuff.
gate it
Now
or
they
whatever
don't-
they want to
Now they
do.
don't do that anymore.
Okay.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we had a motion and a second.
It's all done.
And discussion, all in favor to introduce this ordinance and then call for a public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Any opposition? None being. Item 14, address the state of Louisiana's mandated annual Attorney General's Training Attendance Course and Compliance History Report for Sandra M. Causey. This was requested by Mr. Bubba Harris.
Yes, Mr. Booty, do you have something to say about this?
Yeah, but I mean, I may have changed slightly since I reported to you.
Oh,
So
okay.
I've done a little more research about it. Mr. Harris indicated that we have a justice who didn't attend the required training that they have
Right.
to get every other year. There is 2 statutes that deal with that. It's pretty specific that say both the state and the parish, there's 2 different ordinances. Compensation would be forfeited if they don't complete the required training. So I don't think you have the right to waive that. I did finally find the Attorney General's opinion letter on a
Right.
similar issue. So even if you wanted to accommodate this particular justice, I don't think you can. I think it would be a violation of your duty to maintain your public funds. This doesn't mean that they don't get compensated. They have other fees that
Right,
they collect.
right.
So that's my recommendation.
And-
Ms. Jennifer may have something else more to add.
We've got notification from the state that as soon as she completes, she can go to the next,
Well, yes,
certification of
yes.
how to get reinstated,
But-
and then we will receive our $100 a month or whatever.
Okay.
supplement
Right.
for her.
Right, and the thing is, I talked to Ms. Causey yesterday, and she understands all of this. And she's good with that. My question is, we can have an emergency class for the constable. And that, all this is revolved around a constable that passed away. Mr. Causey, Ronnie Causey was her husband, and he was constable. Well, he was under hospice care the first time they had the class. And she wasn't able to go. And it just so happened he made it through all that, and the following year, he passed away. The same time as they was having the class. So she didn't get to go to that one either. And that's the reason she was behind on her classes.
Well, and let me just say this, that the current ordinance, the way it is written and reads, she will still get paid the same dollar amount that she has been getting paid unless you authorize us to decrease her pay by the amount of the supplement. Because right now, the ordinance just states a flat dollar amount that we pay them per month. It doesn't read in regards to the supplement, so that's sort of.
So, wait, so you're saying that if we reduced the pay by the state supplement, you can write her a check, and Chris is saying we can't write her a check no matter what.
The way the ordinance reads is, it doesn't speak to the supplement, it just says we will pay them X dollars per month.
Right, your ordinance says that. It's state law that requires them to get the training. There's two different state ordinances, state statutes that say you can lose the state supplement if they don't get the training, and you can't get the parish minimum, that you're required to pay them a minimum of $75 a month. I think you moved yours up to $100 a month. That ordinance, that statute says they can't get that until they take the course. Now, can they get it retroactively after they take the course? Now, that's something we can look into.
Okay.
Well, I'm just saying that some action maybe needs to happen, because right now it's,
She's getting paid.
she just gets checked.
Okay, let me ask you a question. And my understanding is if we can request, I wonder if we can request by resolution to ask the Attorney General
Yep,
to put on a special course.
yep.
So, since you told us that under the statute, we can't do anything to accommodate her pay,
Right.
could we, at this point in time, lift the agenda, pass a resolution, asking the Attorney General to give her a special course, which would then speed up the process instead of her having to wait a year, you know, because I mean, we're 10 months before the next course?
Yeah, and not only that either. Just like with the constable, he has got his paperwork. He's got to be sworn in, and within so many days after that, he has to take the course.
Right. Right.
So why not have them both
Yeah.
at the same time?
I don't think you need to lift the agenda. This agenda item is probably general enough to cover that, so it'd be appropriate resolution to ask
So, I
the
mean,
Attorney
you
General.
know, I think we need to probably make a resolution
Yeah.
asking the Attorney General to give her a special course so that she
Her and
can-
him.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, they're gonna do him anyway because he's newly appointed. But give her a special course. If he wants to schedule both of them together, that's, you know, I don't wanna tell him how to do his job. But
Well-
if we ask him, then she doesn't have to wait till the next scheduled deal, which is
And there won't be any.
9-10
any
months from
problem
now.
there.
Is that a motion by you, Mr.
I'd
Chairman?
like to make a motion.
Second by Mr. Tracy Girlinghouse to, now who's gonna request the, opinion from the
I
Attorney
will
General?
request
You'll
it.
do it?
I'll forward your
Thank you.
resolution.
Thank you
Send
very
it.
much.
And the thing is, it says also in the papers I got from the Attorney General's office, that you can call for an emergency class or whatever.
Yeah. All right.
We'll follow up with that.
All right, thank you.
We had a motion and a second. Any discussion? None being, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None being, motion carries.
That's the best way to do it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Item 15, this was requested by Mr. Jeff Averett, adding a three-way stop at the intersection of Mirkwood Court and what's that? Hazelwood Drive and Birchwood Court.
And Hazelwood Drive.
All right.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Jeff Averett,
Second.
second by Mr. Tracy Girlinghouse. Any discussion? None being, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Gotta read
You
it.
gotta read.
Oh, just gotta read it.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Sandy, read that, please.
This will be proposed ordinance 16-16. This is an ordinance to amend and reenact Section 10-9A, stop signs, three-way stop of the Code of Ordinances entered for the Parish of Livingston to add the intersections at Markwood Court and Hazelwood Drive and Birchwood Court and Hazelwood Drive. Public hearing to be held May 26th at 6 p.m.
All right, this will be motion for hold a public hearing and to adopt the ordinance May the 26th. We had a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Hopefully by the end of the first year, everybody on this side of the room will have their stop signs, speed limits straight, and roads that aren't named correctly.
Yeah, but then I'm gonna get started.
I'm just curious.
And give the ones back that we don't want.
I'm just saying.
Doing the work, guys, that's all we can do.
I'm wondering if any other parish council meetings have this much fun. Item 16, selection of internet provider of the Livingston Parish Council office and to authorize the parish president to sign sales and service agreement on behalf of the Livingston Parish Council office. I initially asked this one to be put on there, but I think I'll pick this up in the,
We picked it up in finance.
Finance
And basically what it is, the finance recommendation was, we're going to authorize the signing of the agreement, but we're not gonna initially sign it until Nortec gets with the parish IT guy to determine if we can utilize the 100 up, 100 down that they currently have. And if we can utilize it, then we're not gonna even act on this. We've authorized him to sign it, but he doesn't necessarily sign it if we can utilize what's currently here. If we can't utilize what's currently here, then we'll have already authorized him to sign it, we'll
We'll
move
have to go
forward.
back to it again.
okay, so,
So the recommendation from finance was to ask, to authorize the parish president to sign it, but we're not gonna present it to him initially.
so
We're
we,
gonna wait till Nortec and the current IT people at the parish make their evaluation on the current internet service that's here
So-
upstairs to see if
okay.
we can utilize it.
well, while we're here, why don't we as the council go ahead and take that recommendation from the finance committee and then
That's-
authorize the parish president to sign
Right,
it?
that's what we wanna do. We
Okay,
wanna make a
so we-
motion to do that.
Motion by Mr. Gary Talbot.
second.
Second by Mr. Bubba Harris. Authorize Parish President Leighton Ricks to enter into this contract. Any discussion? None being, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None being, motion carries. Item 17, adopt a resolution of support of House Bill 337 restricting the safety helmets requirements to motorcycle riders and operations under the age of 21. This is an item I had asked to be put on the agenda. I was, Representative Clay Shake Snyder had actually created this piece of legislation I thought was a fantastic piece of legislation. I think it drew a great line and a contrast between those who really believe in liberty and freedom versus the government, when it tries to help people, sometimes puts more restrictions on people. And I think it done a good job of allowing the individual man who's freeborn, of lawful age, sound in mind and member to make and take his own responsibilities and the consequences of his actions. However, this bill did not pass in the House. It failed by 4 votes. So I'm going to ask that we pull this item from the agenda and it not be picked up. Item 18, discuss the district attorney reports.
No report.
What?
Item 19, Finance Committee Chairman recommendations. Mr. Gary Talbot.
Let's see, we recommended doing a Nortec IT service agreement for 6 months at the rate of $500 a month to see if it's a cost savings to us in the long run. It appears that it will be. However, we're gonna do a 6-month evaluation to determine if it's something we wanna engage in long-term. Even though we call it a contract, it's actually a month-to-month. If we wanna get out of it, you know, we'll be able to get out of it. That was the first thing. Can we lump these together?
Does that require action or not?
I mean, it's gonna require signing the contract, so we gotta authorize somebody to sign it.
We just did.
No, this is different.
That was a,
That was on that was the Hunt Telecom service agreement on the internet. This is
Oh,
different.
okay.
So we'll talk about what the different items are, and then we'll ask Chris what we gotta do. 2 was a Nortec equipment quote. One of them was a Wi-Fi router upgrade, the other was a service upgrade and service office equipment upgrade. One of them was for the Wi-Fi upgrade was like $3,426.98. And the server upgrade was $8,776.92. They came out with the recommendation out of finance to spend the money. Jennifer said we had the money in the budget. At that time, she's gone now. We've already acted on 3, which was the Hunt Telecom Service Agreement. 4 was council member pictures and frames. We're gonna spend about, 25% of what the last council spent on getting pictures in here. And then 6 was a council staff compensation judgment, which absolutely has gotta be introduced as ordinance. So can we take 1, 2, and 4, which are spending money? Do we have to, are those are contracts that need to be, actually, one is a contract needs to be signed. 2 is an equipment quote which can be done by purchase order, but we just need to authorize as council. And then 4 is a expenditure that can be done by purchase order. So how do we need to handle those, Chris?
I think you could lump all those numbers you just mentioned and say recommend the adoption of the committee's report and recommendations.
Okay.
And the others that required ordinance hold out separate consideration. I guess you're not gonna do that tonight anyway.
Well, since it is a recommendation of finance, do we have to lift the agenda to introduce the ordinance? Or can we just introduce the ordinance?
Well, yeah, because that's not on the agenda. All you have is a committee report.
Okay,
Now,
so-
was that committee agenda posted?
Yeah, the committee agenda was posted timely, and the item was on the committee agenda, and the committee held it tonight, and the recommendation was to come to us.
No, you can consider all those things then.
Okay.
Because the committee agenda was also posted, but I don't know, do you have the ordinance ready?
She's got the ordinance ready.
Then go for it.
Okay, so what we wanna do right now then is lump 1, 2, and 4 together. We need a budget, we need a motion to adopt the committee recommendation on item 1, 2, and 4, which are the IT service agreement for 6 months, the purchase of the equipment, the Wi-Fi router server upgrade, office equipment upgrade, and then the pictures and frame for the council chamber. Do we have somebody wanna make a motion on that?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Tracy Girlinghouse. Second by Mr. Jeff Ard. Any discussion? None being, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion carries.
And then the last thing would be the introduction of the ordinance on the council staff compensation adjustment. And for those that weren't here, it's a 2-part deal. Ms. Pam's gonna receive a $2,600 a year raise, which is a $100 biweekly raise. And Ms. Sandy's adjustment's gonna be, her base is gonna be moved to 60, which is an average of Tangible Hope, St. Tammany, and what was the other parish? I thought it was Calcasieu. So it was kind of an average of those deals to move her base to that, which in essence, if we would have taken the previous base and applied her time that she's been an employee, it would actually be higher than that. But because she served in a different position, she was just given the base of the previous thing. We're gonna move her base up, and her time will start at that base. So that's, we need a motion on that. Can I make that motion? I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Gary Talbot. Second by Mr. Scooter King.
Read the title.
Any discussion? None being, all in favor say aye. Aye.
You gotta read it. Gotta read the ordinance.
Ms. Cindy, would you read the ordinance? Thank you. Let's call for a public hearing and the date.
No public hearing, whatever. No.
I mean,
Okay.
set the public hearing.
I was just wondering if you were opposing your own raise.
This will be proposed ordinance 16-17, an ordinance amending LP ordinance number 12-50, amending and establishing the salary provisions for the Livingston Parish Council staff positions of Office Assistant 1 and Council Clerk as set forth more fully within. Public hearing to be held on May the 26th at 6 p.m.
Thank you, Ms. Sandy. We had a motion and a second by Mr. Tracy, and then second by Mr. Scooter King. Once again, let's go ahead and call the vote now that the ordinance has been called. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None being, the motion carries. Item 20 is, we could take a 30-minute meeting and turn it into 50. Mr. Bubba Harris.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Mr. Bubba Harris, second by Mr. Jeff Averitt. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.